We're going to get started here this morning. Please excuse my notes. I wanted to make sure to get the accolades for this tremendous person correct, and I wanted to make sure that I had them all down in my notes. So I'd like to welcome to the stage for our very first session, Lieutenant General Todd. He is the DCG of Acquisition Systems and the Chief Innovation Officer here at Army Futures Command. He is responsible for all science and technology and modernization efforts and former PEO aviation. He has a wealth of acquisition and industry experience, and we're so glad to welcome him here to the stage. Lieutenant General Todd, welcome. Please join us. This is for you.
Thanks so much.
You got 20 minutes, and I can help answer any questions from the audience.
All right. Okay, how's everybody doing? Wasn't that great? All right. So that's really why I got into the business of technology, is to help my fellow soldiers. That's hopefully why you're here, you know, and not just about yourself. Thanks to the Capital Factory, once again. Seriously, always a pleasure to come get to be with innovators and really people that are going to help our Army. So from General Murray, let me set this down. From General Murray and AFC, it's certainly an honor to be here. You know, I'll try to pivot off of that, which is really hard right now for me, to move right into technology, but I'll try and maybe link it a little bit, right? We at AFC were built really to make a difference, to make things better, to really do things differently, right? And how many times have you heard we're going to do things different? A lot, probably, with very few results, to be quite frank. You know, we have a very large mission at Army Futures Command, and ultimately that is to create soldier-centered designs that ultimately make a difference in a much faster turn time than we ever had before. And I would argue that that we do not deploy technology at the rate of innovation. It's one of our key failings, right? And you know that. I know that, but we often don't talk about it like that. And so what I would like to do is just hopefully talk to you a little bit about AFC, tell you a little bit about where we're going, but also at the same time, maybe tell you a little bit about what we want to do, right? What we could do, right? With your help. And we look forward to, you know, being on this journey together. More importantly, helping soldiers that are at the, obviously the pointy end of the spear, and making sure that, you know, that quite frankly, it's an unfair fight in a good way for our soldiers, right? I'm very concerned today it's an unfair fight in the wrong way, because we've spent the last 20 years perhaps not staring at the near-peer competitors that we have. And so they've done some things with technology that we've got to catch up on. So who we are at AFC, if you don't know AFC, Army Futures Command was stood up here 3 years ago, to be exact. There are some plank holders in this room, right, who did that. I am not one. I was brought here kind of as an afterthought. Let's see what else we can do. So I'm certainly glad to be part of this organization, though. We're over 20,000 strong. We put together two organizations formerly known as RDECOM and ARCIC inside the Army, really our Futures branch, which is called Futures and Concepts Center now, and our developmental labs. We've also stood up things that you may have heard of called functional teams, cross-functional teams. Not a new concept. Anybody right in the business world understands cross-functional teams. Been around since the 70s, really, from a management perspective. Really new to the Army, and quite frankly, well needed. Because one of the things that we did not do well was horizontal integration, right? We did not keep the team intact, right? We're really good at a team sport, right? The Army is a team sport. But for some reason, when it came to resourcing and requirements and technology, we did not do that. We didn't do it that way. We just didn't operate that way. We hand it to you, you're next, right? And I'm out, right? And you should never be out of this game, right? If you're in the business of delivering ultimately the best to our young sons and daughters. The organizations here, I hope those on the outstations can see it as well. We have really commands like Futures and Concepts, DevCom, MRDC, which is our medical command, and we also have Research Analysis Center, which does independent analysis directly for the CG. Underneath that, you know, we have some other organizations, our teams, Army Applications Lab, which Colonel Jay Wisham is in the audience. He leads that for us. And then I do, what do I do? So I do oversight and integration of science and technology. That's what I do, right? So my mission in particular is to make sure that what we're doing in technology is integrated with concepts and where we're heading with the Army. That's a pretty bold task, right, that I was handed. And it's not just for Army Futures Command labs. We have some labs outside of Army Futures Command, Strategic Missile Defense Command, ERDEC, Engineering Research Development Command. But my job is to integrate them all and to make sure that somehow what we're doing makes sense from our investments, right? That they create outcomes of value, right, down that stream. And so that's kind of where we miss, right? That's where the team has always missed. And so I will do that as part of the Combat Systems Directorate, integrating ASALT, integrating the labs, integrating industry, integrating small business initiatives, et cetera. So look forward to working with each and every one of you if we have the opportunity. What else? Artificial intelligence. We have a Center for Artificial Intelligence in Pittsburgh, and we have a software factory right here in Austin. Go ahead, next slide. Oops, let me do that. I'm doing that now. Sorry. Okay, so for those of you that may have heard, hopefully you've heard about our top Army modernization priorities. I thought I would just bring a little meat on the bone maybe, and so we can talk about some things and areas that we're working in so that you have that as a takeaway if you haven't heard that before. Long-range precision fires certainly being some that we've invested in heavily. Next-gen combat vehicle, future vertical lift, certainly the network, air and missile defense, soldier lethality. We have two that aren't up there, precision navigation and timing, and also synthetic training environment. So really 8, but to be fair, 6 main priority efforts that ultimately seek to change us. I hope you already are familiar with this, but I just thought I'd share that with you. And then the last slide I'll have for you is really some areas of research that we have problems in that we want to make sure that either we solve those problems or we make sure we develop the technology. Is quantum computing going to work out, for example, right? Is it going to yield the promise that it has? Big question. Right now, we're putting the first quad-core computer inside an Army aircraft, the first one to be certified by any of the services. FAA has not certified a quad-core computer to do actual quad-core computing yet. So we're really leading that effort. But when it comes to computing and computing power, right, that is a form of power on the battlefield, right? Energy is a form of power on the battlefield, right? Whether we can run the things that we're developing is a whole different equation for us, right? So we need help there. Autonomy, different levels of autonomy, right? Whether it be simple teleop, whether it be semi-autonomous or fully autonomous, right? There's whole different versions of that. And I would argue there's step approaches we need to take to getting there. So this is just hopefully a little bit of food for thought as we begin this discussion today. Back to my opening comment, and I'll make a statement rather than a question, but we must deploy technology at the rate of innovation. We must. We can't afford not to, right? In the old days, the old analog days, what we did was we developed something that was relatively stable. If I was a helicopter pilot, which I was 32 years ago, and I got in a Huey, right, and a gauge said something, I could depend on it to say it every time. And it wasn't unstable. One of the things that we've introduced is instability. With ones and zeros comes instability, right? So this idea that we live in a linear progression of development is over. It's over, right? The idea that conflict with adversaries occurs in a phased approach is over. It's occurring right now. How many people have ever had a cyber attack, right? How many people have ever dealt with a security breach, as we used to call it, right? How many of our grids are vulnerable right now? Well, all those things that all the infrastructures of a stable city uses, the Army uses with a mobile city. right? We're expeditionary. Ultimately, the goal is to make sure that we can take our own network anytime, anywhere, take our own power grid anytime, anywhere, take all the technology it takes to run that, not only that fob, that base, that city, but do it in a way with a level of surety that we, quite frankly, don't have right now. So self-healing networks, all those things that must occur in simultaneity, right? All the time, every day. We've got to move away from a linear progression. I love system engineering. I'm not an engineer. I've managed engineers pretty much my whole career. We have got to move away from a linear system engineering model. The testing must be done in real time, just like the commercial sector does, right? Level of certification must come along as the development occurs, right? We can't do ATOs. We can't do major capstone test events. We don't have time. Why? Number one, our adversaries have the same technology we have. Many of them surf the waves inside our own country looking to purchase, through venture capital, our very own technology through legal means. Hence, my son or your son or daughter may encounter that technology on the other side of the battlefield, which I don't want. It's a really bad day. So how do we take what's a linear process, crash it, rebuild it, so that, again, the team is always conducting their function alongside their teammate at all times? You have to do it in real time, right? And so multi-domain operations for the Army is really all domain. It's really what it is. All domain all the time. So if we're to crash the schedule, to use a program management term, and to get deployment back to as soon as it's innovated, we've got to figure out a way to keep this from turning into a bureaucratic process, right? And so what we plan to do inside Army Futures Command is hopefully be a disruptor a little bit inside the Army. It's hence the reason our leadership put us here in Austin. You know, we really wanted to be at a tech hub that had a great future, not only a great current, but a great future. And at the end of the day, you know, probably give the Army some headaches on some things that really they need to consider. As a matter of fact, they must consider, right? So I don't know how many times I've developed program strategies and they've met with no end, right? And I know you know that if you're a business. I'm the son of a small business owner, right? I grew up in a business family, right? Hand to mouth, cash flow was king, right? I mean, we didn't sit at the table and talk about, congratulations, you spent all the money today. You know, we sat at the table and talked about, is the customer happy? Because the customer was lifeblood of what we did. Well, what Army Futures Command focuses on is the soldier, right, effective so that they can come home. It's not just are they happy, it's are they effective so that they can come home, right? And I would argue that's going to give probably some of the bureaucratic processes some headaches. How can we do that together? I would tell you that one of the main ways that we want to see ourselves at Army Futures Command is across the Army Modernization Enterprise, this thing that we call the Army Modernization Enterprise, which is the team, right? We are, hopefully, right, the people that call the signals, right? We are the people that say, you know, that worked operationally or it didn't. Right? We don't rely on an independent test organization that's there and independent because for some reason the darn PMs are corrupt, you know, and they just want to get it through, and darn industry's corrupt and they just want to get it through. And, you know, it's built on a foundation of trust, actually. And that's one of the things I personally think that's an Army value, despite the fact it's not listed as an Army value. Trust is the centerpiece of what you believe when you ask me to go do a mission. So as the leader of the Army Modernization Enterprise, General Murray has the distinct role of pulling that team together, keeping it together all the way across the finish line. How do we do that in small businesses, hopefully non-traditionals, and also the majors, the major defense contractors. We make teams operate where teams would not naturally operate. If you really, so almost every solution I've ever bought is proprietary. Almost every solution I've ever bought is proprietary. I want you to think on that for just a second. So what's the chance, I won't use names of companies, what's the chance a company that asserts that it can put the entire communications network together for all of DoD can actually do it? Right? I would argue it's your problem, not mine, right? If you're the one asserting that. And I'd love to see your analysis. Because every time I've tried to get industry to work together, it's very difficult. And I'm just telling you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not, right? And if you're going to convince me that it can be done, then go spend your money and do it. Don't spend my money and do it. This is taxpayer money. I deal with public dollars, right? I deal with your tax dollars, and they will not be wasted, right? So how do we make something really useful where in the past it has been segregated, partitioned, right? We've lived in all our own little separate teams, right? In my opinion, that Army Material Enterprise, that AME, is the beginning of that. Now, whether it grows, whether it proliferates industry, whether it becomes more than just the Army, whether it becomes the other services, is up to them. But one of the things we won't do, right, is we won't allow stovepipes to limit us anymore, right? We won't just take assertions. If you say it, prove it. Fine. I'm agnostic, right? If there's value, we're gonna experiment with it from an operational perspective, and we're gonna let the soldiers use it. Have you heard of Project Convergence? I hope you've heard of Project Convergence. We'll make it happen in a contested environment, and we'll see if it works. We're not going to believe just modeling and sim, right? We're in the business of life and limb. We're not in the business of nice to have. We're not in the business of, I sure think it would be nice to do, right? We're in the business of what could we do for soldiers who are in contact. That's what we're in the business of. And then we work our way back to disaster relief, and then we work our way back into logistics, and then we work our way back, through the chain. It's almost like a blockchaining methodology, right? Right? Blockchaining, the beauty of blockchaining is 51% owns what goes in the ledger, right? I'm not an expert on blockchaining. But I think the beauty of blockchaining is it's uncorruptible to a degree. So if we then create this system that can produce output across that Army modernization enterprise, then hopefully some things will come out of those environments that we're working and researching in. Precision strike missile. I'll go ahead and give you that one as an example. People say we don't cross things across the Valley of Death. We do. It just did. Precision strike missile increment 1 just had a milestone B yesterday. It just transitioned out of S&T. ASALT has it. Let's go. We burned down risk, right? In the process, we matured the technology to a point where we have a much higher level of probability of success. And at the end of the day, we're going to get the capability to our soldier much quicker. And perhaps one of the beauties of it is it prevents the Army from doing something the Army loves to do, which is, and I'm just talking about ourselves, we love to cancel projects. All right? If the Army's good at anything, it's, okay, we'll just, right? When it comes to acquisition, that's a little too much. We're going to kill it before we go in production. We can't do that anymore. We can't do that with public dollars, precious resources, limited resources, and we definitely can't do it because the soldiers counting on us to giving them something better than what they have always, every day. Right? And so I hope you understand I'm passionate about this, right? This is not a job to me. This is the way I live. This is how I think, right? This is how I breathe. It's literally, did we do something today for the soldier, right, that they needed, and that we got them to it, got it to them as soon as we could, right? I think sometimes we get bogged down by the process. Sometimes we get bogged down by, well, it's on a big IMS, and sure, it'll appear in 3 years. Why not today? Should almost always be the question we wake up with, right? Well, you know, it's really risky, and it's not certified, and we don't have enough money. Okay, let's go do all that. Why can't I certify it today? You know, why can't I have the money, right? If it's a priority, why can't I have the money? I'll just finish with this. We have a lot of ways to do business with AFC. You can come in traditionally, right, through broad agency announcements, right, requests for information, RFIs. You can go to sam.gov if you want to. I would encourage you to go to AAL's website. AAL is really our search engine, Army Applications Lab. And they live right here in the Capitol Factory. You can always access them. I think it's 8th floor, right? You're going to talk to them a little bit later. We have gotten, so if we're an incubator and we're a generator, then who's the accelerator, right? So I can actually help with accelerant. I have some kerosene. I can put some money on the fire. I can accelerate some things if what you propose has operational value. We'd love to see your operational analysis. Please don't bring it to me and say, you go do the operational analysis. That's the old model. We're not doing that anymore, right? And we're very proud of the industry partners we have today that have co-invested with us, have stepped out and taken risk. And I can tell you that General Murray, myself, the entire Army Futures Command, as well as I think the Army Modernization Enterprise, is really committed to making sure those things end up meaning something, right? Don't get canceled, right? I can't guarantee it by any means. I'm not that decision authority. But what I can do is make sure, along with your help, that it is ready to be used by our soldiers at the earliest opportunity. And I appreciate and I look forward to being on that journey with you. I'll be here for another couple of years. So if you need me, unless I get another job. But I'll be here another couple of years. If you need anything at all from me, my door is always open. Please come through Army Future Command website or AAL. AAL is a great point of entry for really any inquiry. And I don't know if we have time for questions anymore. Yep. Okay. If there's not, you'll save time. Yes, sir.
I noticed in your 6 pillars up there, and none of the subtitles have the statement in it. That's always an afterthought, and always implied as in the ask at the end.
Yep.
And you're talking about going away from linear and vertical slice. So up through milestone B, you should have sustainable logistics coming in. Are you planning on embedding a sustainer or logistic guide with the discoveries and operational needs?
Good question. I started as a aviation logistician. So having been a maintenance officer, right, and obviously having a little bit of attachment to sustainment, right, joint logistics really, because the Army provides logistics for the Joint Force, not just the Army. One of the things, or one of the areas that we're looking at in what is the Army's Future Studies program, which Futures and Concept Centers here in AFC is running, is contested logistics, right? We're doing it in certain scenarios right now. It's very much in a modeling and sim type environment right now. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be extremely revealing to us. I'll give you an example. One of the things we're trying to do is increase rate of fire of a particular system. I appreciate that, but you break the supply chain with that very model, right? So operationally necessary, but your magazine depth isn't enough, is really what it means. Now you can break that down into supply chain, transportation, all those things, right? But at the end of the day, it does no good to develop a higher rate of fire or a deeper magazine if it just causes you to exhaust your supplies sooner. Other things that we're looking at is obviously pre-positioning. There's certain things that are just going to pop, and we've got to have sources of supply elsewhere, other than maybe right here where we produce those things right now. But to be encouraged, I hope you're encouraged by this. So we have the CFTs, but we also have ISR task force. We also have a directive to work on basically joint logistics in those scenarios that I think will inform our investments for sure. And not to speak for new leadership, but they are very interested in that, by the way. Very interested in that. Another area we're looking at is protection, right? Protection of the force. And it can be everything from threats to a base to individual soldier threats, okay? And I think that's something that's real that we need to continue to think about. I'm glad you brought that up. It's one of the things we had to choose which are the CFTs. Several got left out that could have been there. ISR task force is still there because it could have been a CFT. Logistics could have been a CFT, some other ones, but no doubt about it. I think our analysis this year out of future studies program and what FCC is doing is going to be very revealing on logistics and where we need to invest going forward. So I hope that helps. Okay. All right. Thanks again. Thanks to Capital Factory, and have a great day.